as you can probably tell from the past few episodes of Ramblings with Rebecca, I have been a wee bit kind of, perhaps hold a wee bit kind of and go with downright lazy of late. Guests are a fantastic excuse for getting done. As is living in Europe, there's just too much cool stuff to see, you know? But I do need to start getting academic again, for no other reason than I'm going to a conference and I have like a paper abstract due to in May and yada yada yada. So it's like, okay, focus. You know, no more running around picnics under the Eiffel Tower. It's time to get to work. I didn't actually have a picnic under the Eiffel Tower. Did have a donut and did ride the carousel. Anyway, okay. But that's okay. Today we're going to talk about EIAs. EIA. Acronym that means all sorts of things. The United States government's Energy Information Administration. Woohoo! Let's look at petroleum and gas. The Environmental Investigation Agency, which I think is like an international organization, independent, you know, that investigates things like this. Environmental crime. Dun, dun, dun. That could be a fun job, like being an environmental cop. Okay, anyway. Neither of those things, though, or whatever other things EIA as an acronym may mean for you, are what we're talking about today. Today we are talking about environmental impact assessments. And everybody cheered! Yay! I love talking about EIAs. They're actually quite cool and quite complex. The idea is fairly simple. An environmental impact assessment is a process or procedure that's used to try and figure out what kind of environmental consequences, whether those are good or bad things, side effects, direct impacts and causes, that some kind of project is going to have, whether that's a plan or a specific construction issue, a program, you know, whatever. And EIAs are done prior to implementing that design, that policy, that whatever, with the idea being, you know, that like you forecast the issues, you figure out which ones are going to cause harm, you figure out how to mitigate those harms, and you adapt, you know, the plan, policy, program, construction, design, blueprints, whatever, to mitigate any negative harms, and kind of, you know, capitalize and build on, you know, the good effects that could happen. So an EIA might, for example, look at a brand new factory that's about to be built in a town, and say, okay, what's going to happen here? Like, how much, you know, waste, where's the waste going? How much crap can this factory dump into the local river before the local river, you know, is having adverse effects, you know, and is too polluted for this particular special species of fish? Oftentimes environmental impact assessments are expanded, or there's a partner assessment done for a social impact assessment, or you can have an ESA, an environmental and social impact assessment. I, as we know, don't like divisions and dichotomies, so I tend to, you know, they're all, like, all of the impacts are environmental and social. So you might also, for example, look at how many new jobs is this factory going to create? How sustainable are those jobs going to be? Are those jobs going to be sourced locally? Can they be sourced locally? Is there an education program that could happen when the factory comes in, you know, about, you know, families? Are people going to be displaced, you know, when this factory goes in? So it's looking at all of those kind of things that can, you know, impact the community, figuring out which of those are good, which one of those are bad, how likely they are to happen. I mean, you know, the factory could blow up. That would have a big impact. Is it very likely? Usually not. So, you know, so starting to kind of do the calculus of which risks are present, which risks are extreme, which risks are most likely, and, you know, kind of building in to the blueprint, whether that's the blueprint of the actual building or, like, you know, the policy blueprint from the get-go, ways to deal with that. EIAs are increasingly simplified and complex. It is a formal procedure, and most countries have a standard set of codes for how you do them. And they're often a requirement of new buildings and places. They're also a requirement in international law when it's going to have transboundary effects. We'll get to that in another episode. I'm not going to try and tackle it in 10 seconds. But there's also questions raised from how the actual EIAs are done and who has a say in what they say.